Good afternoon, Richa. Good afternoon, Mr. Boni.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon,
Well,
everyone.
how are
Take
you?
us forward and introduce, the topic and others.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Richa Divan, a senior associate with Century Maxim International. Our guest speakers for today are Mr. Aslam Goni and Mr. Farad Ali Khan. Mr. Goni is a senior advocate practicing at the High Court of Jammu and Kashmir and the Supreme Court of India for over 30 years. He is an eminent criminal lawyer and has been the former Advocate General for Jammu and Kashmir. He was in fact also nominated as a judge to the High Court but chose the public life and contested assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir. And Mr. Farad Ali Khan is the managing partner at Century Maxim. He has over 15 years of experience and has conducted matters in multiple jurisdictions, working in a capacity of a lawyer, a legal advisor, and an in house counsel for many esteemed organizations. Today, we'll be discussing what is money laundering, the FATF and its role, how investigations are conducted along with the powers of law enforcement agencies and the courts, the preventive measures one can adopt, the sentences imposed in the offense of money laundering, and some of the latest developments. Now, without further ado, I'll hand it over to Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Richa, for allowing me this opportunity to host the webinar along with our special guest speaker, Mr. Aslam Goni, on this important topic, anti-money laundering, evolution in the regime. So when we say money laundering, this is now the most widely discussed topic all across. I mean, we've seen almost every day a news being reported on this topic. So we thought, why not cover this topic for our audience? Help them understand what exactly is money laundering in different areas of business, in different areas of practice, how we should be careful in dealing in different activities, whether it is financial services, whether it is business and trade, and avoid any violation to laws related to AML. I think power outage. Okay, sorted out.
Yeah. My power here is disturbed as we are in India.
Yeah, it's okay, Mr. Goni. So now coming to exactly what money laundering is, we all know. I mean, it's a method of concealing sources of illegally obtained funds, money, assets, which could be of any type, if converted, disguised into legitimate funds. Will be considered as a money laundering. Now, money laundering, it's a secondary offense. It's an offense which is predicate in nature and classified as money laundering only when there are proceeds benefited to a party.
Yeah.
Now, money laundering is an internationally discussed subject, a law which has been created in different jurisdictions, enacted in different jurisdictions on a very similar standards. There is an international body to oversee this, is called the Financial Action Task Force of the European Union, which was formed in 1989. It acts as an international watchdog and provides recommendations and standards for different jurisdictions to control, have proper measures in countering money laundering and terrorist financing activities. Now, countries that have failed or to pass the audit test of the FATF are considered in two categories. Either it's a high risk jurisdiction, which is now only two countries, Iran and North Korea, and the others, quite many, are called a grey list, which was under the grey list, which includes Cambodia, Jordan, Philippines, and including Pakistan and other countries around us, where the FATF is continuously giving them standards that you must comply to these standards and ensure that your jurisdiction is not considered under a grey list. Now, this impacts directly on the economy of a nation. If a country is into a grey list, there could be sanctions, there could be restrictions in conducting business, professional, and trading activities with that particular jurisdiction. So there is a direct impact on the economy of that country, and that's why it's a very important subject to be currently discussed. Now, there are different stages of money laundering, which is more or less a very basic, basic known process in terms of identifying what are the different stages of money laundering. So dirty money, what we call illegally obtained money, is collected. It is then brought into different channels, brought as, done, which we call as layering, as cash proceeds placed in financial institutions through banking channels or other financial service providers, and then integrated into the system. So this entire process is called this process of money laundering in three stages. So there are mechanisms of conducting investigations of money laundering. So before investigations are conducted, there has to be an event which triggers an investigation. This could be by understanding the customer, by understanding the nature of the business or service that customer is engaged into. Whether that transaction is suspicious is only one of the major sources of indicators. So, for example, a person is bringing in large deposits of cash to his bank account. Now, the bank manager may do a check on the customer that whether this person is an employed, salaried employed, or into a trade. So, does this person's profile match the cash that is being brought into his bank account? Once there is a mismatch which is detected by the compliance officer of the bank, it becomes a trigger, it becomes an indicator to be reported. Accordingly, then it is considered as a proceeds of an illegally obtained money, and during the process, if the transaction is cross-border or across jurisdiction, information can be exchanged between banks. There are certain preventive measures how a financial institution, a bank, can prevent a money laundering act, which could be proper verification of customers, doing a proper due diligence, ensuring that the customer is verified, his identity is all verified, and there are risk standards that are met before the customer is accepted, onboarded by the institute or the bank or the financial service provider. There could be a mechanism which is an enhanced due diligence for high risk customers. This may depend on the jurisdiction from where the customer originates. Other preventive measures is, of course, risk assessment, where we see customers. We do a risk analysis on the geographic location of the customer. What kind of product, service, and transaction is covered here is also important. For example, if the customer would want to engage in a format of digital currencies, assets with funds, which assets being transferred between jurisdiction, this could be a parameter to do a risk assessment. Important other mechanisms is, there has to be proper record keeping. So financial transaction records, customer due diligence records, company related information, politically exposed persons are to be evaluated separately, because AML is one concept where a lot of matter depends on the reputation of the person. Now, this is something of our interest, which as lawyers we see what could be consequences of not reporting. If there is an event of a suspicious transaction, now this could be intentionally or by negligence, it is immediately considered as a crime. Different jurisdictions, whether it is India, UAE, UK, there are penalties applicable from rupees 10,000 to 1 lakh for failure to submit a suspicious transaction report. Now, this is mainly applicable on institutions, bodies, personals, compliance officers, representatives of the company dealing with customers, where they fail to report a suspicious transaction. And in the UK, there is no limit to fine, but also includes a penalty of 5 years of imprisonment. So there have been cases in the UK where the FCA and different regulatory authorities have imposed fines into hundreds of millions of pounds on large financial institutions. for failure to comply with submitting data of suspicious transactions. Now, this is another interesting thing that we need to take, we need to be aware of, is various investigating authorities and courts that have powers, including conducting search, arrest, seizure, freezing of properties, attachment of properties with proceeds of crime. There are special powers imposing administrative penalties on entities and issuing warnings, banning the violator from working in its sector for a specified period. Now, in the UAE, the Financial Intelligence Unit and the central bank have collectively banned large number of individuals and companies from entering and conducting businesses into the UAE for being reported as violators of AML laws. So there are other powers, which is worldwide freezing orders and the Norwich Pharmacal orders, under which a court can issue an order on a third party to disclose if it is if it has any information related to a transaction. Now, there's a simple example to this is that even existing laws or agreements of secrecy, confidentiality will not be cannot be applied here. So, if, for instance, there is a data protection rule or law which applies on a company from disclosing under the Norwich Pharmacal orders, it does not apply. So this is something which is must be noted by our audience today. In India, we have the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Under Section 4, there is a rigorous imprisonment for a minimum term of 3 years. This may extend to 7 years, and the offender shall also be liable to fine. So I think we have a limit of the amount of fine here. In the UAE, the fine amount is massive, huge. It starts from 100,000 dirhams to 500,000 dirhams, and the imprisonment can go up to 10 years. In the UK, under the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002, Section 334, the maximum penalty is of 14 years imprisonment and an unlimited fine. So, depending upon the quantum of the violation, what type, who's the violator. If it's a large bank, then maybe the director of that bank can be imprisoned, and the bank would have to pay a fine which could be running into hundreds of millions of pounds. So, there are defenses available to parties, which is absence of intent to commit a crime, but must be supported by sufficient evidence. And insufficient evidence on the prosecutor. Now, this is, Mr. Goni, this is an interesting point which I wanted to discuss here today is, when it comes to proceeds of crime, there are a lot of personalities, whether it is celebrities or business owners or promoters, who may have knowingly or unknowingly received benefits from income which is illegally obtained. Now, particularly considering Section 5 of the PMLA, where the officers can ask the party to appear and clarify or give answers to questions confirming whether their proceeds have been illegally obtained. Now, beneficiaries of proceeds of crime can face financial sanctions. Their assets can be freezed. They can face imprisonment, fines, and penalties. So there are some latest developments. In the UAE, we have special courts dealing in money laundering and other financial crime. In Dubai, Police General Command, the UAE Financial Union signed a MOU to enhance joint efforts to combat and track illegal assets and criminal proceeds. So here the authorities, what they've done is they've constituted a special force which will do investigations to track illegal assets and criminal proceeds, and then these criminal proceeds are separately attached. In the UK, this has been quite largely in news, that 30% of the money mules in the UK have been found to be below 21 years. Now, money mules are such individuals who don't actually know that they are carrying somebody else's money which is dirty. It's like a personal favor or support that one person may ask, that can you give this money on my behalf to him, and I will give it to you in this country as cash. So a person, let's say, is traveling from the UK to India. Uh, the other person will give him some money and say to hand it over to person X, without the person actually knowing, and against which a nominal fee could be paid. So we have some questions for Mr. Goni. Richa, if you can just put that to Mr. Goni, and then we'll see. We'll hear Mr. Goni and guide us on the matter related to money laundering.
Absolutely. In fact, because some of the questions that I have for Mr. Goni are separate from what we're discussing, I just wanted to pose a question from the audience that we already have. Someone has asked that how do we identify, so what are the indicators for identifying suspicious transactions? If Mr. Goni or Mr. Khan, either of you could address that.
Yeah, you see, there are two things. In fact, one is this what you term it as suspicious activity report, and then the other one you term as suspicious transaction report. So you see, we need to go into little background about it. This was actually, the problem was always there. Money laundering is not a new concept. Money laundering has always been there, but probably at a certain point of time, it was not taken so seriously by the world community or the countries individually. And the matter was running as such. It was taken note for the first time in 1989 in a special session of the United Nations General Assembly,
Okay.
where it was found that not only that this money laundering is threatening the economy of a country, but also the sovereignty and integrity of the countries. Wherever this money laundering offenses are recurringly happening. So the resolution was adopted, which I remember was probably resolution that was resolution 17.2 of which was adopted on 23rd day of February of 1990, and on the basis of that, another session of the General Assembly in 1998 adopted a resolution that all the member countries must have anti-money laundering laws. See, by this time, what had happened is that the word as such was gripped by the militancy in a larger way. And the funds which were being generated by different sources, like the narcotic drugs, the other illegal explosive sales, and all these things, that the word body thought and took to its mind that we must have the individual member countries must have their own laws. So exactly, I was looking at the Indian law, which is the Act of 2002. A little surprising for me that even after that 2002, it was passed by the Parliament, it was placed before a select committee and then passed. But nonetheless, that would be a longer discussion. I don't want to enter into that. But I would like to tell the listeners here that the way these laws have been formulated and these laws have been brought into effect, I get a shiver myself when I look at these laws and the stringentness of the laws. Any person, I would like to inform all the listeners here that any person, even unwittingly, Mr. Farter said that defense could be that intention was not to do it, but till the time you prove your defense, by that time you are into a lot of a mess, and the fact would remain that you may do certain things unwittingly, which prima facie may involve you in the offense as defined under the different laws. So all these things, whatever you have shown and whatever you have explained briefly to the listeners in this session, I would suggest all of us should, be very careful, very conscious, because, as a criminal lawyer, my experience is that, once you got into it, by the time you prove the defense, you are nowhere by the side. So many things you have to take, like you have to take care. Maybe that, sometimes you get into it, you actually do not even understand that how you got into it. You may not be like as you showed just now that 30% of the people there in UK are less than 30 years of age. So, this is you can be used also, because the people who are indulging in this money laundering. See, one is money laundering, which we can understand as like a personal benefit to a person, like siphoning the money from one country to other country, siphoning the money from financial institutions. I have come across cases here in India where many people, the latest being now these Modi, Narav Modis and others, they are all guilty of siphoning the money, and and now this siphoning of money, as you have already said, Mr. Farad, that it's a secondary offense. See, money laundering is a secondary offense, but it is secondary offense only in cases where like this money is being used for something which is more illegal than taking this money itself. Like if we see in the we have got an enactment here in India, which is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. In that, Section 40 describes the raising the funds, which is there the imprisonment provided is life imprisonment, because now it depends that for which this money which you are being accused of laundering, for what purpose this is being used. Some people may take it just to buy a big villa in Los Angeles and siphon money and to have a better lifestyle, without affecting the other aspects of the behind the issue, which is like the major one being the terrorism itself. So terrorism is all being funded all over the world by money laundering. And anybody, my listeners here, or anybody for that matter, also clean he may be, if slightly gets into the allurement of some of his even known person, can launch himself in a very worse situation. So, like I am of the mind that, like, the setting up this financial action task force, which they abbreviate as FATF. This was the basic concern, like where the word agreed to, it was taken as such a serious problem for the whole of the world, like the environment, the international terrorism was found essentially to be on a basis money laundering was essentially found to be the source for financing this thing. So the boundaries were washed away. There are these laws, no less boundaries now, because Financial Action Task Force is a task force created by United Nations.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely, sir. So
Yeah,
just circle back to what we were just discussing, and then I'll just go on with it because I see a couple of questions coming in the chat, so I want to give enough time to everyone. So just to even add to what Mr. Goni has said, so when you identify transactions and you see them, they're unnecessarily complex, or it makes it difficult to identify the beneficial owner, or something that doesn't make a lot of economic or commercial rationale. I mean, those would be indicators. Other than the fact that, of course, everyone while doing business today has to be extremely cautious.
Very important question is there. See, there is Advocate Anna Durani is asking a very important question.
Yes,
Like,
I was just coming to that, sir.
yeah.
Before I take up her questions, I had a few questions that we could ask you as well. If that would be okay with you, then I would take it over.
Please,
Yes.
Kevin.
Right, sir. So, sir, in fact, as a senior member at the bar, you've obviously witnessed several cases and investigations. How do you feel that the framework of anti-money laundering has evolved over the years?
I couldn't get you, please.
So, having already witnessed so many investigations and cases, how do you feel that the framework of anti-money laundering has evolved over the years, right from India, where let's say it was.
No, I don't think it is evolved in a better way because, like, you see, in India, I see there are certain agencies which are we have got basically the enforcement directorate, which under the law is empowered to, But then, if you see, look at the history of the law in India. 2002, the act was brought. 2005, it was thought to
Justified.
go into effect. Until date, we don't have even the infrastructure which the act has provided, in a very ordinary way, the amendments are brought into the act, and those amendments. You see, I believe as a whatever experience I have as a criminal lawyer, I believe, see, the fault is not with laws. Laws, though we can make very good laws, copying each other. But the problem is for implementing the law. That is the problem. When it comes to implementation of the law, there the system also, like, maybe less resources. My country has got that minus point always, because we have not been even able to provide the perfect judicial system in the country, for the reason because, like, the requirement of judges and per person, the requirement of judges according to population, we are very far away, because of which, you see, when we talk of the system, I believe, as a lawyer, the judicial system essentially was and was created for administration of criminal justice system. Now, whatever you talk, money laundering, you talk anything, you talk terrorism, you talk anything, this is all is like, it depends on how effective criminal justice system you have in a country. The other countries, the developed countries, have got, you are in UAE, they have got, wonderful laws. But, like, countries like which are underdeveloped countries, they have problem. They cannot create the infrastructure for the implementation of the law. One is the investigation part of it. The other is the post-investigation, the trials and the conclusion of trials, and
So, on
In
this,
fact,
sir, I've always said that in India we have a very, very beautiful, progressive legal structure, but an extremely poor legal infrastructure.
True. That is true. That is admitted. My Chief Justice of my Supreme Court has been crying that on in the seminars.
So we have beautiful laws, very
Yeah,
nicely enacted.
we copy. Now, see, our problem. We have always been copying laws.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
on one more point,
I
sir, I
remember
would,
when I was a small child and my father wrote a speech for me. And in that speech, he wrote that the constitutional pundits of the Indian Constitution imported the Constitution within a fortnight from the
Rest of the world.
other systems, like
Rest of the world.
we
So,
from
In
rest of the
fact,
world.
from in fact, from that itself, if I
We
may
are
need
very
to,
good at importing the laws, but we are not. We have initially we have to understand if United Nations took an initiative as back as in 1989, which was repeated and reiterated in 1998, and then we came as the biggest country, and we haven't see we have got much of money laundering problem here. In India, there is much more of, because the reason being that our all systems have now started coming to a place, by these Aadhaar links and other things. Earlier, you knew nothing about what an Indian is doing.
okay, so Mr. Goni, two, three things I would like to mention here. One thing, you said that this impacts the integrity of a country. A very simple example to this is, the FATF in 2018 gave 27 guidelines to Pakistan, our neighbor, to comply with and come out of the green list. Now, in 3 years, 4 years of time, they've been able to rectify, and the audit test has passed for 26 points. 1 point is still missing. And that point is that their legal system does not have standards to complete trials of organizations, individuals, bodies that are accused of financing of terrorist activities.
Yeah,
Because of
see,
one activity, the entire integrity of a country is under a, in a cage.
that is because of our poverty.
Yeah.
That see, there India and Pakistan can be, they can be compared.
Yeah. One
absolutely.
more, Richard,
Sorry,
one
sir.
more thing I have here in mind for Mr. Goni. Of late, we have seen too many incidences, reports of these, lavishly spendings of celebrities and business owners, particularly in Mumbai, where, the celebrities are having, they have cordial relationships with persons who are publicly known, or of course may have a reputation of being involved in
Yeah,
scams.
you must be talking about that Jacqueline for that.
No, no, I don't want to take names,
No,
but
no,
then the
but that is
investigate.
all in news all over.
Yeah, it is there, but these investigating agencies have suddenly gotten into action. So how do you see this as, if you can give
See,
some view on
my problem is I seriously believe, now you should not take it that I am making some political statement. I seriously believe. You see, to live in a civilized world, now I will not say of a country, to live in a civilized world, you have to gradually become civilized yourself individually. Are you getting my point? You know, there are people who commit murder. There are people who commit thefts. There are people who commit deceit, but that they are not on whom the system depends. They are more than the system. They are the people who are endangering by their activities, endangering the existence of the humanity as such. So we have to, now what is happening in India earlier, nobody ever asked anybody that this much money you are spending, where from you got it. Now you are traced. Now your accounts are traced. Earlier, nobody could even trace your accounts. With the passage of time, the way the technology is developed, and you see, our problem is because we are the biggest democracy, we have got the biggest number of people living next to China. We are the people who have to understand the problem. We have to go to the root of the cause of the problem. We have actually not understood that how my one reckless thing affects my country, that is basic relationship, state and individual relationship. My state and individual relationship, you see any developed country, the strongest thing you'll find there, and that's why they don't allow, there are also the things that are happening. There are also the things that are happening which are endangering the existence of those countries. But the fact remains, since these people have got more a strong relation of individual and state, this individual and state relationship, I am saying, is very essential for getting into a best possible civilized living. So, until and unless we don't live a civilized way. Like, yes, I am earning 10,000 rupees a month. My expenditure on my kitchen is 5,000 rupees a month. My 2,000 rupees on my other things. I save 3,000 rupees, and this is my 3,000. I am nothing beyond this. I am nothing less than this. Once you are clear like this, nobody can touch you. Nobody can ask you. But unfortunately, in our country especially, I will not see, the tax evasion is one of the biggest reason. Tax evasion, you won't find tax evasion to the extent as it is in my country, because people think that whatever we are earning, probably we are being taxed. Because I'm just not telling you, I am sitting, I am talking to you on such an important subject, and my electricity at my home has by this time failed 4 times. So I start thinking, why bloody hell, what for the taxes that we pay? I mean, it's a that takes away the system is taking away my civilization. No civilized person can now, in such a improved society, in such a wonderful world, can now be somebody like feeling to be from Stone Age. So my request would be, like, the subject you have taken is a very important subject. All of us have to understand. See, I was thinking to myself, apart from your definitions, laundering, 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 laundry. Yeah, I was looking at the meaning. Laundry means washing also, and laundry means,
Cleaning,
yeah.
washing and cleaning and making it,
Yeah,
making
but no,
it
but
fit to
but
be
that is
used.
that is positive. That is positive. Here, the money laundering is always negative. In whatever
It
way
is
you do,
negative.
it's negative. So I would like to tell all the participants, and whosoever ultimately listens to me, what I'm saying is that, kindly please, the world is changing. World is definitely changing for a better situation, and in this better world which we are trying to look forward, you need to take a lot of care. You need to take a lot of care. You should not, okay, sometimes they say that, for to achieve a bigger thing, the smaller things get sacrificed. So you should not become a sacrificing goat, uh, at the hands of those who are indulging in these activities, and they, just by one misleading thing, they could not land you into a trouble. So all those things which Mr. Fark Khan has shown you, well, the
No,
points explained, like, whenever you have to get in touch with somebody, some business you have to start, somebody verify his antecedents, verify his, his address is not once 10 times, and and be sure that you now know this man fully well, to have any further thing with him. But unfortunately, what's happening is, in a race, there was a time, I think, I may not be boring you people, but there was a time when a case came to our Supreme Court, where certain people who had invested in a chit fund company, or in a private finance company, the judges of the Supreme Court at that time, I think it's about 20 years old judgment. I don't exactly remember the citation, but I remember it. I've been through this judgment, where the judges said The people had gone to say that, look, sir, we had deposited money with this private finance company. They cheated us. They are not giving us. They have become bankrupt. They have run away. Supreme Court said that no, we are not going to come to your rescue. We will not come to your rescue. You are the greedy people. And the reason given was that you are the greedy people because you expected your money to be doubled in 2 years. Whereas any normal bank at that time would double your money on a fixed deposit in 6 years or 5 years. So the Supreme Court said, you are greedy people. We are not going to come into this. But now what is happening is, now we are keeping the people inside the jail, coming to the rescue of the people. The Supreme Court in the Sahara case, you can just see what was done to that Sahara Sheri every time deposit this much money, and I don't know, you have got this much money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, sir. So, in fact, and thank you for that insight, sir. I have another question, in fact, which I'd like to put to Mr. Khan because of his experience on the corporate side. Mr. Khan, there's a question from the audience that says that from the point of view of corporates, anything that needs to be taken care to be vigilant. What are the corporates' responsibilities in respect of AML activities, if any?
So for corporates, if the corporates are engaged in financial services or any other non-designated business and professional services, it is very important to have the best standards of doing a KYC on your customers, on your business partners, on your channel partners, and understand who are the beneficial owners, understand what is their background, what is their reputation, and all their credentials, whatever they are providing to your company, could be verified easily. Number one. Apart from this, to have this properly implemented, it is important for the corporates to develop internal policies and guidelines that would let the entire company staff practice it with full adherence.
Absolutely. I hope that answered your question. And to spin off, because you're especially talking about the
I want
financial.
to answer Advocate Anna Durrani.
Yes, I
So,
was
so
just.
so Anna is asking that India has been a founder member of Interpol since 1923, but the country has not come in terms with money laundering related to Swiss bank transactions. That is black money. So does this mean that the anti-money laundering unit of Interpol has failed? No, not at all. See, all money in Swiss bank, it is, these could be political statements, but all money in different banks in Switzerland does not necessarily mean that it is a laundered money. These could be deposits of companies, these could be deposits of corporates, these could be deposits of individuals, for whatever reasons. Yes, of course, but the investigation has to commence from the country from where this person
No,
is.
no, Mr. Farad, I'm sorry to interrupt. You see, I am not going to agree. This is admittedly what Anna is asking. It is admittedly something like on which my whole country has been, played with.
No, not.
We all know here that whosoever makes this huge hush money, they all take it to Switzerland, to the Swiss banks. See, let us not be on that. Again, I will tell you one thing, that even all these laws which we are discussing, see, God should save us and give wisdom to the people who are the leaders of the world, that they should not be biased while implementing the laws. They should not be biased. It should not be like, somebody is not agreeing to a leader or B leader, and he should just ask some investigating agency to be after him. So this is something about which we speak less is better, because that gets into a
Yeah.
political
Political discussion.
scene.
Absolutely. In fact, and I just see a question akin to what I anyway had to ask both our speakers. Um, what Mr. Sunil Sharma is also asking is that I understand corporates can be beneficiaries, but what is the law for transaction with bona fide and unknown source, even if being vigilant. So, and in furtherance of that, I think the underlying question is how do bona fide third parties protect themselves from, attachments or being dealing with properties that may ultimately be suspected of being proceeds of crime. So I believe that to either of the speakers to answer.
So see, as long as as a corporate compliance officer, as a company, when you're onboarding your client, when you're onboarding your trading partner, business partner, what is essentially required is that you undertake all possible KYC standards, all possible due diligences on this party before you enter into a trade. What are you importing from this party? What are you exporting to this party? How are you paying? And then understand whether this party is competent to supply you the products that it is being, that you are commercially entering with this party. So if these standards initial checklist is done, and I think unless and until
No,
there is a,
and at least Google them first
yes, of
once
course,
before
of course,
you get into their trap.
check the reputation, and if you have diligently checked all these boxes properly, then the liability would be on the other party, and because you're bona fide and done whatever best could have been done within your possible reach, there should not be a problem.
And if I also actually may just add to that is that often in practice, what we also follow is that before we onboard a client, we have to identify their shareholders, their UBOs. And so if we identify any such shareholder or UBO which comes from a high risk country or a grey list country, I understand it's often difficult for you to identify source of wealth, but we have now started that as our onboarding procedure. So if you are in a field which requires such extensive due diligence, then maybe that is a practice that you need to put in place so as to safeguard yourself from being drawn into any such investigation at a later stage. I hope that that has answered your questions as well. Further, I think I'd take up one more question about how the digitization has impacted financial crimes as well as the government's efforts in curbing them today.
So, Mr. Goni, would you or I?
What,
So
what, what?
the
No,
question is that
I was looking at Mr. Abhishek Jain's question.
no,
Yeah.
what Richa has picked up is
We'll just take that up as well, sir. But maybe something also a little.
You were asking me what, Richa?
Yes, sir. So, how has digitization of how has digitization impacted financial crimes today, as well as the government's efforts in curbing them?
Yeah, things should be clear now. See, that's what I told you. The moment you know about it, that सीधा चोरी है ना देखो the theft, any kind of theft you do is a theft. These things which now are being created, which are at least fixing you somewhere, at least knowing who Aslam Ghani is, where he is sitting. Like, we are telling our listeners that you should at least Google the person with whom you are going to have some kind of financial relation. Or, if somebody is asking you, we must know each other. The word should not be, it should not be captured by the people who have no faces. These are the people who have no faces who indulge in crime. They have no faces. They don't have legal faces. They don't have legal faces. They have got, their word is a different word. That's an entirely different word. So that has to be taken into account. And for this, different governments are trying to digitalize the things in their own way, and which is, I think, for the better, until and unless it does not really interfere with your privacy. You see, that is what my Supreme Court also says.
Mr. Khan, would you like to add your views to this question as well? Perfect. Thank you for that, sir. Maybe I think we have time for maybe one or two last questions. I will take Mr. Abhishek Jain's question that whether should the consensus be built to eliminate corporate secrecy laws that still are prevalent in some countries? Also, how can sovereign governments effectively discourage offshore transactions or engagement with shell companies? Mr. Goni, would you like to take that up?
I think Mr. Bharat would be a better person to answer that. Bharat, you are not audible. You are not audible to me.
Oh, sorry, I put on mute while Richa was speaking. I thought. What Abhishek is asking: should consensus be built to eliminate
Yeah.
corporate secrecy laws? See, when it comes to corporate secrecy laws, in terms of AML, there are no secrecy applicable. In fact, the AML law specifically says it is prohibited to invoke secrecy. And countries and jurisdictions have been, under the FATF guidelines, have been asked to exchange information when it comes to AML violations.
Yeah.
So you can't have and countries must disclose to the other jurisdiction or to other parties or other law enforcement agencies of different jurisdictions when it comes to detecting any offshore transactions or engagement with shell companies. So the recent examples are Panama Papers, Pandora Papers, etc., etc., where information has been disclosed at international level with different countries. In fact, the Prime Minister of Iceland had to resign within a week of this disclosure.
Right. No,
But I would add just one sentence to it. I think I should answer Abhishek's question in affirmative because, like now, there are certain myths in law. These myths are like we used to first say that there are certain classified informations about government, those who govern, those who rule, and like similarly here it's not about governments, it's about private individuals, private persons. I would say that like now more transparent we make the working of the every person would be better. What is secrecy? What kind of secrecy you want to? It can be qualified. It can be said that yes, secrecy again to the extent of it affects your privacy. Otherwise, if you are into public domain, you have no secrecy. What kind of secrecy you are claiming? Well, but I remember in a case I was asked by the High Court judges that I had annexed a Xerox copy of a chief secretary's note with the petition where my client was dismissed from the service, and I was told that no, this is a privileged document. Where from did you get it? I made argument. I said, sir, when it comes to my livelihood, you can't tell me where from I got it because this is the only thing which saves me. So, transparency, it has to be accepted as it is. I agree with Abhishek in affirmative that we must not have these privacy laws for these corporate bodies. The secrecy laws for corporate bodies. It should be an open thing for everyone.
It is. In fact, there is a guideline here in the UAE, which is, it's a decree basically issued by the cabinet. Under Article 38, they specifically mentioned that when it comes to money laundering and related crimes, it is prohibited for banks, for financial institutions, for service professionals, for companies, for any institute or anybody to say that there is,
To withhold the information.
that there is a professional or a contractual secrecy applicable
Yeah,
here.
yeah. No, that has to be there. That has to be
It
there.
has to be.
That has to
So I think good session.
yes,
One,
Thank you.
one last
You,
point.
you guys will excuse me because now I am little older for all these things,
Yeah.
and I hope probably I came to up to your
No,
expectations.
no, sir.
No,
It's been a fantastic discussion. We've got a very, very good audience today, and thank you everybody for being with us. We wanted to discuss a topic which is very much discussed more by the media houses and less by the lawyers these days.
Thank you very
absolutely.
much. Thank you very much, Richa.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goni,
Thank you,
Mr.
Bharat.
Khan. It's
Thank
Thank
you,
honestly
you.
been
sir,
a
and
pleasure.
thank you, our
God
audience.
bless you.
Thank you,
And
sir.
thank you. And I'm sure a lot of the questions that one has had on EML have gotten
Yeah, we
answered
can have
today.
we can have another session when I will be like in a full mood. These days I was not in full.
Absolutely. No, we look forward to it, sir. And thank you everyone for attending the webinar today. And in case there are any questions that haven't been answered because of paucity of
Please
time,
email
please,
and we'll definitely get
yes,
back to you.
Thank you
perfect.
very much.
And thank you so much. And till then, please stay safe and stay at home.
Yeah, stay safe, stay safe. This corona is again catching up.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. God
Thank you,
bless you.
everyone.
God bless
Bye-bye.
you. God bless you. God bless you.